Jaren Cole was halfway through his morning shift aboard the interstellar research vessel Astralis when the universe decided his day needed to get significantly more complicated. He was sitting alone in the hydroponics lounge, eating a reheated protein bar and pretending the blinking maintenance alerts on his datapad did not exist yet. The Astralis was a floating diplomatic hub with 12 decks, 89 departments, and more political protocols than any sane person could memorize. Jaren, as one of the ship's environmental engineers, preferred to keep his head down, fix what broke, and avoid drawing attention from the diplomats who walked around like their titles were made of explosive material. He had just taken a sip of lukewarm coffee when a melodic voice spoke behind him, warm and bright like chimes in the wind. Jaren Cole, Environmental Systems. Is this seat taken? He turned and nearly dropped his mug. Standing beside him was Lyria Thalren, a bioluminescent Aethari researcher whose presence had a way of making the plants subtly lean in her direction. Her silver-blue skin shimmered like moving water beneath the soft ceiling lights. Her eyes, luminous and shifting, held a depth he had never been brave enough to look at for more than half a second. He had noticed her before. Hard not to? No, seats free. Unless the chair declared independence in the last 5 minutes. Lyria laughed, a soft harmonic sound that felt like it vibrated in the air. 3 other Aethari approached her table, sitting with elegant precision. Jaren immediately regretted his life choices. Jaren, these are members of my research cluster, Lyria said. Aerolith, Saurine, and Velen. The introductions came with gentle gestures and melodic greetings, Aethari customs he only half understood. Still, he tried. His pronunciation was, based on their expressions, technically legal but not recommended. We have been studying human social patterns, Aerolith said, specifically your approach to relationship formation. Jaren froze with his coffee halfway to his lips. Oh, good, romance anthropology, his strongest subject. Human partner selection appears chaotic, Saurine added thoughtfully. Is this intentional? Jaren took a breath, wishing his coffee were stronger. Look, humans don't pick partners according to harmonic resonance charts or genetic patterns. We just try things, see what works, sometimes badly. Fascinating, Velen murmured. Lyria tilted her head, studying him with an expression he couldn't read. So human bonding is guided by intuition and experimentation, not structured compatibility. Pretty much, Jaren admitted. The conversation drifted into human music, humor, and cultural oddities. He slowly relaxed, until Lyria suddenly turned toward her cluster, lifted her hand in a formal Aethari gesture, and spoke a single sentence in their crystalline language. This is my chosen partner. Every sound in the lounge stopped. Even the ambient hum seemed to go mute. Jaren blinked. I'm sorry, did you just... Yes, Velen whispered, visibly stunned. She has claimed you, publicly, formally. Jaren opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Lyria, is this some kind of translation glitch? No error, she said calmly, switching to flawless English. I should explain before you have what humans call a panic reaction. That would be great. Aethari bonding customs require a public declaration, she said gently. By claiming you, I announced romantic and social partnership, effective immediately. Jaren stared. And you did this because... Lyria smiled, soft, warm, impossibly sincere. Because I have observed you for 4 months. Your habits, your patterns, your responses to stress. And I concluded that our resonance compatibility is exceptional. You've been observing me. Extensively, she said cheerfully. Jaren was fairly certain his soul separated from his body for a moment. Around them, the lounge remained completely silent. So what happens now? He asked. Now, she said with radiant calm, we see if my analysis was correct. Jaren Cole realized something he had feared his entire career aboard the Astralis. Today was not going to be simple. His life had just taken a turn that was either going to end beautifully or catastrophically. Possibly both. By the end of his shift, Jaren had discovered 2 things. 1, the Astralis had more gossip channels than an entire planetary government. 2, news of his accidental Aethari marriage had spread through every single one of them. He found this out when Lieutenant Mason from security leaned against a coolant tank in the maintenance bay, grinning like he had been waiting his entire life for this moment. So Mason said, arms crossed. I hear you got married during your coffee break. That's frankly impressive. It's not a marriage, Jaren muttered, tightening a bolt on the atmospheric regulator with unnecessary force. I think, maybe I don't know anymore. Well, according to Dr. Wren, what Lyria did is basically the Aethari version of eloping, broadcasting it to the whole clan and filing biological compatibility paperwork all at once. Jaren stopped mid-bolt. She what? Before Mason could elaborate, Dr. Wren, the ship's overenthusiastic xenobiologist, burst into the bay with 4 data pads, 3 styluses, and the energy of someone who had just discovered a new species of chaos. Jaren. Perfect timing. I've been reviewing Aethari bonding customs, and what happened today is either profoundly romantic or a cross-cultural disaster. Possibly both. That does seem to be the trend, Jaren said weakly. Wren swiped through a glowing display, showing diagrams of Aethari biology. Aethari don't make casual declarations. Their bonding system is based on resonance alignment, emotional, intellectual, even biochemical. Lyria wouldn't claim you unless she was certain you matched across multiple spectrums. Wren frowned thoughtfully. And considering she's been watching you for months. Observing, Jaren corrected, same thing. The ship's comm unit suddenly chimed with its overly friendly synthetic voice. Engineer Cole, you have 22 congratulatory messages regarding your bonding declaration. Additionally, I have compiled a guide titled Aethari Human Coexistence Protocols, Domestic Edition. Would you like it displayed? Mason almost collapsed laughing. The comm unit continued. I have also curated a playlist of harmonic human, Aethari fusion melodies appropriate for early-stage bonding rituals. Playlists? Jaren groaned. Why are there playlists? Before the AI could answer, the maintenance bay door slid open. Lyria stepped inside carrying a small crate of luminescent plants, a bundle of ingredients he didn't recognize, and a grace that seemed to bend the room around her. Jaren, she said warmly, I hope I am not interrupting. I brought materials for evening meal preparation. Shared cooking is a primary bonding ritual in Aethari culture. Jaren stared. You want to make dinner with me? Yes, she said simply, to assess domestic compatibility potential. Mason whispered behind him. Translation. She's interviewing you for the position of husband. I already claimed him, Lyria reminded calmly, turning her glowing eyes toward Mason. The evaluation is merely confirmation. Jaren felt his brain shut down for the 3rd time that day. Lyria stepped closer, placing the crate gently on a workbench. Her voice softened, a melodic undertone weaving through her words. Jaren, about this morning, you are uncertain. That is natural. Aethari bonding customs differ greatly from human ones. That is one way to put it. I chose you, she said simply. And now we have the opportunity to discover if that choice was correct. You keep saying choice, Jaren murmured. What exactly did you base it on? Your pattern recognition, she said. Your tendency to adapt instead of freeze under pressure. Your emotional steadiness, and your unusual ability to find humor in difficult situations. Jaren blinked. Those are compatibility traits? Yes, very desirable ones, Mason whispered, amused beyond reason. Congratulations, man. You're someone's ideal lab report. Wren elbowed him. Lyria gently lifted one of the plants from her crate, the bioluminescent leaves glowing faintly. If you choose to share this meal with me, she said softly, then we begin learning from each other. If not, I will withdraw the invitation and give you time. Jaren looked at her, really looked, and noticed something he hadn't, a faint shimmer of color beneath her skin, drifting between silver and soft violet. Aethari emotion tones. He recognized them from Wren's lectures. She was nervous. Lyria was actually nervous. All right, he said quietly. Let's make dinner. Lyria's entire form brightened, a warm glow blooming across her skin like sunrise through water. Outside the viewport, the hydroponics vines shifted slightly, as if reacting to her happiness. Jaren didn't know what this was going to turn into, but he knew one thing for certain. His life aboard the Astralis had just changed forever. 3 weeks after his accidental Aethari bonding, Jaren Cole had settled into a rhythm he never expected to experience on a diplomatic starship. Mostly because every part of his life now included Lyria in ways that felt both impossibly natural and mildly terrifying. She appeared in the maintenance bay with questions about human humor. She hummed near the environmental processors, making them run more efficiently. She asked him to join her research cluster for meals, discussions, cultural exchanges, and several times, what she called harmonic compatibility observations. Jaren still wasn't sure what those were, except that they involved sitting close enough to hear the soft vibrations of her bioluminescent skin. He pretended not to notice. She pretended he wasn't pretending. Everything was complicated. Everything was strange. Everything was nice. What he hadn't expected was the knock on his quarters door one morning, followed by Dr. Wren barging in with the urgency of someone announcing a meteor impact. "Jaren, we have a situation." He sat up from his bunk. "Is this about the coolant leak? Because I fixed that." "No, this is worse. Much worse." Wren held up a datapad displaying a series of official Aethari symbols. "The Aethari Cultural Assessment Delegation has arrived." Jaren blinked. "The what?" Wren's voice dropped to an excited whisper. "They're here to evaluate the success of interspecies bonding experiments. Apparently you and Lyria have become a case study back on her homeworld." "A case study?" Jaren repeated. "For what?" "Cross-cultural panic responses?" Wren hesitated. "Actually, for unconventional partner selection." Jaren rubbed his face. "Great, I'm a research paper." Wren sat on the edge of his bunk. "Lyria is from a highly traditional family. Her grandmother, High Matriarch Stellaris, is one of the most respected cultural authorities among the Aethari. When she learned Lyria bonded with a human, without following proper compatibility protocols. Define proper: extensive resonance analysis, multi-family consultation, elder approval, harmonic neuromapping. Basically months of tests, Wren said. Instead, Lyria just pointed at you and said, "Mine." Jaren groaned. "That sounds not ideal." The door chimed. Lyria stepped inside with a grace so fluid she may as well have glided. But today her skin was dimmer, cooler blues and muted silver tones that Jaren had learned to associate with stress. "I assume Wren has explained," she said softly. "So your grandmother is coming to inspect me." Lyria winced, a very human gesture she had picked up from him. Not inspect. Evaluate. She believes human partnerships are unstable, that bonding with you is either reckless experimentation or cultural dilution. "So she's coming to decide whether we stay bonded?" Jaren asked. "Yes, and if she disapproves," Lyria swallowed, a tiny movement but for an Aethari deeply telling, "then our bonding is declared invalid. And I will be expected to return home, permanently." The room fell silent. Jaren hadn't realized how much he had adapted to her presence. He was used to her humming near him while he worked. Used to her knocking on his door with a new plant she wanted him to name. Used to her soft, harmonic laugh. Used to the way she watched him, calm, analytical, but with warmth beneath it. The idea of her leaving made something cold settle in his chest. "What does your grandmother need to see?" he asked finally. Lyria took a breath, her skin shifting through emotional tones he didn't know how to read. Deep compatibility. Intellectual harmony, emotional resonance, practical cooperation, she hesitated, and physical compatibility. Jaren blinked. "Physical as in?" "Our species react biochemically to compatible partners," Lyria said. "When resonance aligns, stress responses synchronize, heart rhythms harmonize, even immune systems adapt. Is that even possible between humans and Aethari?" "Unknown," Lyria admitted. "We would be the first documented case." Before anyone could answer, the ship's comm system blared. "Attention senior staff and cultural representatives. The Aethari delegation has arrived. All personnel report to Docking Bay 2. Wren clapped his hands like a child at a festival. "Oh, this is going to be amazing." Jaren shot him a glare. "For who?" Lyria placed a hand on Jaren's arm. The touch was soft, warm, familiar, something he had grown used to far too quickly. "Jaren, no matter what the delegation decides, I want you to know something." Her skin brightened into soft violet and warm silver, tones Wren had once called affection spectrum. These past weeks, Docking Bay 2 was silent when Jaren and Lyria arrived. Silent in a way that meant everyone on the Astralis was terrified of offending someone important. The crew stood lined up in formal formation. Officers kept straight faces. Even the ship's AI dimmed the ambient lighting, as if trying not to breathe too loudly. Then the delegation entered. At their head was High Matriarch Lyria Thalren, Lyria's grandmother, and she was nothing like Jaren expected. She stood nearly 7.5 feet tall, her skin a deep silver blue marked with intricate luminous patterns that shifted with the slow dignity of an ancient river. Her eyes held layers of shimmering light, so complex Jaren felt the air vibrate when she looked at him. She radiated the kind of authority that made admirals stand straighter and diplomats rethink their careers. Lyria stepped forward and performed a harmonic greeting, so intricate Jaren couldn't track half the tones. Stellaris returned it with a resonance that rolled through the deck like a living wave. "Child," the matriarch said, her voice layered with ancient harmonics, "you have caused a disturbance." Lyria bowed her head. "I know, grandmother." Stellaris turned her gaze to Jaren. So, the human, every officer in the bay suddenly found something very interesting to look at on the opposite wall. Jaren swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am, that's technically me. Whispers rippled through the delegation. Solaris stepped closer. You claim bonding with my granddaughter. Actually, Jaren cleared his throat. She claimed me publicly, in front of many witnesses. I was very surprised. A young Aethari elder made a soft sound that Jaren suspected was suppressed laughter. Even Solaris's eyes flickered with something suspiciously close to amusement. And yet you accepted this claim? The matriarch asked. Jaren looked at Lyria. She stood tall, calm, but he knew her tones well enough now to sense the tension beneath her skin. Yes, he said softly, I accepted it, and I continue to accept it. The docking bay hummed with low Aethari harmonics. Surprise, interest, speculation. Very well, Solaris said. Then the evaluation begins now. What followed over the next 3 days was the most intense relationship audit in galactic history. The delegation measured everything: communication patterns, emotional synchrony, decision-making alignment, stress responses, biochemical fluctuations, sleep rhythm compatibility, shared problem-solving efficiency, domestic cooperation potential, down to how they washed dishes together. Jaren had wires attached to places he didn't know could hold wires. Lyria endured constant observation with the patience of a saint. But nothing prepared them for the final test, the hypothetical life support failure scenario. The delegation presented a complex emergency simulation, a cascading atmospheric collapse requiring both human engineering intuition and Aethari biological expertise. Jaren and Lyria fell into the problem like they'd been solving crises together for years. We can redirect flow here, Jaren said, pointing to the holographic processor grid. But the oxygen output will drop below botanical thresholds. Then we redesign the threshold, Lyria said. I can modify the plants to survive higher carbon concentrations temporarily. Jaren blinked. You can do that. I can do anything with the right partner to stabilize environmental variables. Hours passed in seamless cooperation. Their ideas wove together like two halves of the same solution. Delegation members murmured in disbelief. But the true test arrived unexpectedly. On the third night, the Astralis' lights flickered, the alarm sounded, and Captain Raller's voice echoed through the ship. All personnel, we have a genuine atmospheric processor failure. This is not a drill. Jaren didn't think. Lyria didn't hesitate. They ran. The main environmental core was chaos, flashing warnings, carbon levels rising, processors overheating. Crews scrambled. The backup systems couldn't compensate. We have 6 hours before CO2 reaches critical levels, Jaren said, hands flying over controls. Then we use the hybrid solution from yesterday, Lyria replied. Adapt the environment to the plants and the plants to the environment. No discussion, no doubt. They simply move together. Jaren rerouted stabilizers. Lyria accelerated plant growth. He improvised environmental circulation paths. She modified plant gene structures in real time. At one point, when the stress peaked, Lyria reached out and touched his wrist, just briefly. Their heart rates synced instantly on the monitors. Ren gasped. Jaren, you're harmonizing biologically. Lyria's eyes widened, but she didn't let go. 12 exhausting hours later, the environmental system stabilized. The crisis was over. Jaren slumped to the floor. Lyria dropped beside him, leaning lightly against his shoulder. Their breathing slowly synchronized. Matriarch Solaris stepped forward. Her markings glowed brighter than before. The bonding is genuine, she said. The doc fell silent. I have never in all my years witnessed resonance alignment like this, even among Aethari pairs. And yet you two align not in spite of your differences, but because of them. Jaren looked at Lyria. She met his gaze with quiet awe. Solaris nodded once deeply. The evaluation is complete. The bond is real. Lyria let out a breath that shimmered across her skin in soft gold. Jaren felt a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the environmental systems. Solaris continued softly. The announcement hit Jaren harder than any alarm, any crisis, any tangled mess of wires he had ever crawled through. A formal bonding ceremony, official, permanent, recognized by both species. He sat frozen on the environmental core floor while Lyria's skin shimmered with colors he had no translation for, gold threaded with silver, violet fading into soft blue. Relief. Joy, something deeper. Crew members slowly filtered out of the room, giving them space. Even Dr. Wren and Mason retreated with stunned silence, whispering to each other like they were witnessing the opening chapter of some legendary interspecies romance. When the last onlooker left, Jaren finally found his voice. So, that's it. We're officially compatible now? Lyria turned, her expression bright with gentle warmth. Not officially, not yet. The ceremony is required for recognition. But the evaluation proved what I felt. Felt, he repeated carefully, felt, she confirmed. For the first time since he'd met her, Lyria looked unsure, like she was choosing her next words with the precision of a surgeon. Jaren, when I claimed you, I acted on resonance analysis alone. It was logic, pattern recognition, cultural instinct. She paused, her voice softening. Now it is more. Jaren's heart gave an uncomfortable, traitorous jump. More how? Lyria exhaled, a shimmering flutter beneath her skin. When we faced the crisis, when our patterns aligned, when your intuition met my precision, I experienced emotional resonance I have never felt before. Jaren stared, emotional resonance. In Aethari terms, she said quietly, it means you change how I feel the world. He swallowed. That sounds significant. It is. Before he could respond, a soft chime came from the corridor. High Matriarch Astralis stepped into view, her towering presence nearly filling the doorway. Child, she said to Lyria, the preparations are underway. We begin the bonding rites at first cycle light. Lyria inclined her head respectfully. Yes, grandmother. Astralis then turned her gaze to Jaren, one part evaluation, one part curiosity, one part ancient authority. Human, walk with me. Jaren froze. Lyria looked alarmed. Grandmother. Astralis raised a hand. Peace, I will not harm him. That was not very comforting. Jaren followed her out into the quiet corridor. The ship was dim during night cycle, humming softly under their feet. Astralis walked with a grace that felt like drifting water. For several long moments she said nothing. Then, you do not treat my granddaughter as an exotic curiosity. That is good. Jaren blinked. Thank you. You do not shrink before her intellect or her power. That is also good. I try not to embarrass myself daily. Astralis ignored the joke. Instead, she halted and turned fully toward him. Jaren felt like he was being examined by a living constellation. Lyria is brilliant, fierce, unyielding. She was never meant to choose a partner lightly. When she claimed you without protocol, I feared she had acted impulsively, foolishly. Jaren nodded slowly. I figured I wasn't exactly what your people pictured for her. You misunderstand, Astralis said, her harmonics deepening. What I feared was that you would not meet her, that you would remain beneath her to be protected, studied, pitied, lesser. Jaren's eyebrows shot up. I didn't know that was even a concern. You rose to meet her, Astralis continued simply, on every level. And when crisis struck, you did not stand behind her or in front of her. You stood beside her. Her eyes glowed faintly like starlight through water. That is what true partners do. Jaren swallowed hard. I care about her. Astralis studied him. Care is a beginning. Compatibility is a foundation. But something more is forming between you. Something neither of your species has experienced before. She tilted her head. Are you frightened? Jaren laughed under his breath. Terrified? Good. That means you understand the weight of what you're entering. Only fools bond without fear. She turned away and began walking again. Sleep, human. Tomorrow you stand before two cultures and speak your truth. Then she added, almost as an afterthought. And whatever you speak, choose honesty, not perfection. My granddaughter values sincerity far more than flawless harmonics. Jaren stood alone in the corridor after she left, his pulse steadying, his thoughts spinning. Tomorrow was the ceremony. Tomorrow was commitment. Tomorrow was standing beside Lyria, in front. The bonding chamber aboard the Astralis had been transformed overnight. Luminous Aethari strands flowed along the walls like living rivers of light. Soft harmonic tones vibrated in the air, resonating faintly in Jaren's chest. Human candles and reflective panels had been arranged between them, blending the traditions of both species into something new, something that felt strangely right. Officers, diplomats, scholars, and half the ship's crew filled the circular hall. The Aethari delegation stood in elegant formation, shimmering in shades of silver and deep ocean blue. Human crew members were less orderly, whispering excitedly, some already betting on whether Jaren would faint. At the center of the chamber stood Lyria. Her bioluminescent skin glowed brighter than he had ever seen, warm gold threaded with soft violet. She wore ceremonial Aethari attire that flowed like liquid starlight around her legs. She looked powerful, calm, beautiful in a way that made Jaren's breath catch. When she saw him, the colors beneath her skin brightened subtly. You are late, she teased softly as he stepped toward her. I'm right on time, he murmured. You're just early enough for both of us. Her lips curved, small but real. High Matriarch Astralis stepped forward, raising one hand. The chamber dimmed, leaving only the glow from Aethari markings and the soft shimmer of candles. "Begin," she commanded. Two glowing threads descended from the ceiling, one blue, one white. Lyria reached for the blue, Jaren reached for the white. When their hands closed around the threads, they pulsed with gentle light. Lyria spoke first, her voice carrying harmonics that made the walls hum. "Jaren Cole, you came into my life through chaos, through coincidence, through an error that was not an error. I claimed you because logic demanded it. Because resonance analysis pointed to you. Because your patterns aligned with mine." She paused, her glow deepening. But logic was only the beginning. The room went silent except for the soft hum of harmonics. In crisis, I saw your courage. In uncertainty, I saw your steadiness. In every challenge, I saw partnership, not because our species align, but because you choose to meet me again and again without fear. You changed how I perceive the world. And you give shape to a future I did not expect. Jaren's chest tightened, not with fear, with something else. Solaris nodded to him. His turn. Jaren took a breath. His voice wasn't melodic or harmonic or profound, it was just his. Honest, real, imperfect. "Lyria, when you stood beside my table and said, 'This is my chosen partner,' I thought I was having a stroke, or being pranked by a group of glorified plant wizards." Soft laughter rippled through the humans. Even some Aethari smiled. But after that, after the shock, the panic, the confusion, I kept noticing the things I hadn't seen before. How you watch people, not with judgment but with curiosity. How your voice changes when you're excited. How you make everything around you run smoother, brighter, calmer. He hesitated, feeling his pulse synchronize with hers through the glowing threads. And somewhere between all the chaos, I stopped trying to figure out what this was supposed to be. I just wanted to be where you were. Lyria's breath caught audible even in the hushed chamber. Jaren continued softly. "I don't know what the future looks like for a human and an Aethari. I don't know what challenges we'll run into. But I know I don't want you facing them without me. So if you'll have me, not as your accident and not as your analysis result, but as your partner." He lifted the glowing thread slightly. "Then I'm here fully, willingly, and without hesitation." Silence fell, deep, resonant, full. Solaris stepped forward, placing her hands over theirs. The glowing threads wrapped around their arms, spiraling up in patterns that mirrored Lyria's bioluminescence and Jaren's heartbeat. The harmonics in the chamber shifted, vibrations aligning, deepening, merging. Biological monitors around the room flickered with readings, heart rates synchronizing, stress levels leveling together. Neural rhythms drifting toward alignment. Two species, one pattern forming. In the quiet awe of the room, Solaris spoke with a voice that resonated through metal and bone. "The resonance is true. The bond is formed." Partners acknowledged by both Aethari and human decree. The final surge of light wrapped around Jaren and Lyria, warm and bright. When it faded, the connection between them felt different, real in a way he couldn't explain, like a quiet pulse beneath his skin. Lyria stepped closer, her voice soft. "Jaren Cole." And then she touched her forehead gently to his, a tradition